Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, time for another review. Today we'll be looking at the Beyerdynamic T1, which is a flagship model. It has been for quite some time. It has a sibling, which is a closed-back version of it, which is the T5, or rather the T5P. This one is quite a bit better, though some people like the T5P as well. Mostly for its portability, but we'll get to that later. It'll be shipped in a large cardboard box, which there's not much significant about, but inside it you'll find this, which is an aluminium case, or rather an aluminium box, because I wouldn't so much call it a case since you can't really carry it with you, due to its rather enormous size, but enough about that. It's a nice finish and a nice touch for it. It's a single plate here and then some plates wrapped around the side here with sort of a pattern to it. Snap lock on the front. You just do that. You open it up and then you'll find the headphone in here, resting in some nice black foam. When you buy it, you'll find the instruction manual and a booklet about the company in the lid as well. And it comes with a rather odd cable, I'd say, because you're probably used to, with something like the XG800, that it comes with a fit and finished cable from Sennheiser that has been made for the XG800. And most manufacturers make their own cables. Beyerdynamic, at least in this case, does not. This is actually a cable made by Summer Audio, and pretty decent cable, very thick, separated left and right wires with a shielding. All of it is connected to a Nutric plug. The ground, as well as the shielding, is connected to the ground. And then the rest is as usual. What that also means is that if you want to balance the headphone, you don't have to change the cable, you can just re-terminate it since it's separate cables. But enough about that. Also, something you might want to know is that in case you want it balanced and you want a dual XLR setup with two 3-pin XLRs, you can just split the cable because it's, yeah, you get it. But all in all, very nice cable, very long, but rather thick if you want to carry it, pretty heavy, but in most cases that's a good thing. Since most people won't be carrying this around, I've been using it quite portably most of the time, actually, because I use my Sennheiser XG800 at home, and then this one when I'm on the go, because it's much better built for it than the XG800, which is quite flimsy if you ask me, especially considering the price, but it's all to do with trying to remove resonance and so on, but that's for another video. The Beyerdynamic headphone here, the T1, is basically the same look as every Beyerdynamic headphone in almost recorded history here. They don't really like changing the design. What they have done though is mill out some holes in the arms here to make it look a bit more stylish, and milled out T1 on the arm. And this is all aluminium, I think, maybe steel, I don't know, probably aluminium, which has been anodized black. This is plastic though, and these are as well, but that's actually, especially the fact that these are, is a good thing, because that means you can put it on a table and such without risking it scratching up the table. The headband is made from lambskin leather and suede, which is very nice and extremely comfortable. The pads are velour and they are semi-open. They're basically the same construction as the DT880. Well, they actually are the same construction, except they have this very nice looking mesh on top of it. It's sort of an alternating pattern, meaning that when you see it in the right light, it looks like stripes, and then it has Beyerdynamic written underneath the mesh, so you can see through there. I really like it. It looks quite nice. Very sort of, the classic German idea of style, where it's all very streamlined and sort of understated, yet extremely good quality. And that's generally what Beyerdynamic has done with this headphone. And it's just extremely good quality. I mean, the build of this, like I mentioned, I've been using this portably because it's just built so sturdily. I think you could throw it around. If you wouldn't do that with a headphone like this, but you could probably throw this around and knock someone over with it without anything happening to it. And whether or not that's true, I don't know, but it's certainly a nice thing to have it feel like that. The drivers are angled, and they are also very, very powerful. As you may know, the drivers are 1 Tesla in the magnetic flux, which is what gave it its name, the T1, which until recently was the most powerful drivers in the market. The Fostex TH900 is 1.5 Tesla, so that beats it to the punch on that, so that sort of takes the fun out of the name. But I guess it still works. I mean, it's still 1 Tesla, right? But in general, the physical aspects of the headphone are about as good as it gets. Very, very sturdy, it does the job. Very comfortable on the head. I find the pads are a bit cozy on the ears. If you have very large ears, they might not be completely circumaural, but they should be for most people. I mean, they are rather large, but I just feel like they get a bit hot and seem to touch the ears a bit. But it's definitely a circumaural headphone, no question about that, due to the size of them. But that's it for the physical aspects. They're quite easy to recable. You can take them apart like any other Beyerdynamic headphone, and thus I'd also suppose you could replace the parts. But let's get to the sound. These will probably be compared to the other German flagship with it, which is the HD800 by a lot of people, and in many ways they do compare quite well to them. Though I'd say these are probably for a different audience in some aspects, because the HD800 is just a precision tool. Not that these aren't, but they are very clinical. The difference between these and the HD800, and for that matter the DT880, which is much like the T1, is that it's got sort of a warm tone to it. If you look at a frequency graph or a measurement of it, you'll see it has, like all of the Tesla headphones, it seems to have some resonance. I don't know what's causing it, but it does. But it actually adds a positive aspect to it, which is sort of perceived warmth of the sound, which makes it much more listenable, much more enjoyable to listen to if you don't want your ears murdered, basically. The HD800 can, for example, tend to be very, very sharp, like a knife's edge, if you have a bad recording or something. These are as detailed as the HD800, but with some, I would say, some leeway, basically, that if you have some recordings that are a bit worse, they'll not be as horrible sounding as the HD800 would be, and it also makes them much better with a lot of genres such as jazz and so on, because jazz just seems to work better with a warm sound, like a tube amp, basically. It's not much of a warm sound, but it's just enough that you notice it, and enough also that the treble doesn't get completely ear-piercing. The T1, like most German headphones, has the elevated treble to increase the perceived detail, which it does, but again without being very sibilant. And I think that's a result of the resonance I was talking about. The mid-range is very good, just as you'd expect, very controlled. The bass as well has decent punch, not a lot, but it's decent. It's nothing like, say, a V Moda, for example, which just, or an HD25, which just slams. But it has very good bass, especially considering it's an open, or rather a semi-open headphone. It has very good bass, much better than the HD800, or at least it's stronger than the HD800. It may not be as controlled, but I'd say it's pretty much as controlled. It's close. I personally prefer the HD800 when it comes to just complete precision, but this is very close to it. So I'd say overall, well, just to specify, the bass goes quite deep. An orthodynamic headphone will go deeper, but it goes quite deep. So the bass is very good, fairly strong, not above neutral, I'd say, probably pretty much spot on neutral. The same goes for the mid-range, very detailed, very crisp, very neutral again. That's sort of what they're going for, it seems. And the treble, again, very controlled, not sibilant at all. It may be a bit much treble for some people. That depends on whether you like the sound of it or not, since it has the elevated treble. But that's about it. I'd recommend this for people who listen to, for example, the lower model of Beyerdynamic, the DC990 and 880 and so on, or an HD800, and found it a bit too clinical. Basically, if you found those a bit too clinical, I'd recommend this. This is a bit more consumer oriented. It's more fit for listening to music as a consumer rather than a professional, I'd say. That's sort of how I'd describe it. So if you want a very detailed, very accurate and natural headphone that is not too clinical at the same time, this is probably it. This is probably as good as it gets. It also has the upside compared to, for example, the HD800, that the T1 is very good with all genres. The HD800 does have some problems with some genres due to its sound. This has previously been described as sort of a jack of all trades but a king of none, and that's pretty much how I'd describe it, though I'd say it's closer to being just a king of all trades, basically, because it's that good. You can find better things at most of them, but it's pretty close to being as good as it gets. So I definitely recommend this headphone on that basis, if that sounds like the sort of sound you would be looking for, the German sound, but with a bit of leeway. This is it, and built like a tank, so you can take it with you wherever you want. You can get a much better case for it if you want to take it with you, of course. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and please feel free to ask me anything in the comments that you would like to know, and I'll see if I can help you. Thank you, and see you later.